right, we're back in the narrator form. Let's just jump right into it. Let's get into the number 10 spot. And I'm super glad to start off this list like this. Start off on a really high note with the final home haunt to make this list. And my favorite home haunt, that of course being the Pirates Cave, located in Orange. This is my all-time favorite home haunt, without a doubt. And I'm so glad that it is located only like a 15-minute drive away from my house. It has a super cool story about cursed treasure that is located in these cliffs in the ocean. And if you find it, like turns people into zombies, and there are these undead pirates that guard it. It's just a really, really creative story. I went there I went there for my first time on November 1st in 2019 when it was a walkthrough maze. There were monsters like roaming the streets and scaring us before we went in. My grandma took me to these things, to this one, and she's not really great with scaring, so it was kind of a shock for her to have scare actors scaring her in the streets. So I wait out in line, and then I go in, and I'm greeted by this awesome little pre-show with flashing lights and a talking animatronic skeleton, and then the maze was off. I was already super impressed by this maze, but then my mind was blown by the giant octopus animatronic that attacked me while crossing the bridge and sprayed water at me. After passing the super well-timed jump scare after this part, you turn this corner and you press a button. You're greeted by this super awesome projection show, and all of a sudden a burnt body pops out from where you push the button, and then all of a sudden you turn to your left and it looks like the room's on fire and there's a burnt zombie trying to attack you. And then you're chased out of that room into more scare actors that shit their thunder jugs at my face. And man, and then the maze was over. It was over in like a minute 30, 2 minutes and 30 if you count that little, including the pre-show and the projection when you hit the button. So super simple design, but absolutely fantastic in execution. I wanted to go through this thing over and over and over again. It was just that much fun. Man, I loved it. So I only did it once last year, but this year I heard that it was going to be themed to Origins. It was called Pirates Cave Origins, and it was basically going to tell the story about why there's this Pirates Cave and why the treasure is cursed. So the maze became an interactive show, and the story was about a pirate named Calico Jack, who was this ruthless pirate, and about how he came across this ship run by the Christian church, and God was like, hey, that's not cool. And he cursed them all, and how there's this curse if you open the chest, it's going to release Calico Jack and his undead crew. Super cool story. I'm not going to tell the whole thing. I'll leave a link to the video in the description so you guys can go watch it. So I went there on October 23rd, or the first night, and somehow, I don't know how, but the show was better than the maze. It just made the haunt so much better. The effects were top freaking notch. The scares were awesome. The story was super engaging, and it felt kind of like a 40s show because you get water sprayed on you, and you felt air cannons when there was stuff happening. It's this haunt was just incredible. And another great thing about this haunt is that it's for all ages. It's good for all ages. It's a great first haunt to bring youngsters to if they want to come to a haunt. There's little to no blood or gore. The story isn't too scary. Overall, it's super nice charm to it. And of course, to top it all off, I had the honor of working as a scare actor for them on their last night of this year. And by God, it was the most fun I had in a while. The owners and runners of this haunt are just the nicest people. They were super nice to let me be a part of this. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I enjoyed blasting my air cannon at people and shaking my little can of rocks and coins. Man, it was just an absolute blast. So the Pirates Cave will probably always be my favorite home haunt. It's incredible. Please go support these guys because they're just incredible. They're super nice people, and this is just a big passion project, and it should be supported because this really is an amazing haunt. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, since that was our last home haunt for this list, it's all professional haunts after this. So, professional haunts usually, like I said, they qualify themselves because they usually have a bigger budget, paid scare actors, and, just stuff like that. Sometimes, though, some are more professional than others. This is one being a lower tier professional haunt. Of course, that is the Flesh Yard located in Anaheim Hills. So I went to this place first back in 2019. The same night I went to the Pirates Cave the first night. I went with my grandma. We went to like two. We decided to let's go to two haunts in just near us. So we went to the Pirates Cave first, and then we went to this one. So we pull up. It's in this like pumpkin patch, and we pull in, and it looks kind of sketchy at first. Not gonna lie. Not in a sense of like, oh, they're gonna do some horrible things to you, kind of sketchy. No, I mean sketchy, and like this thing looked cheap. Like, it looked like I wasn't going to get scared very much. It looked like I was just going to walk through it. They were going to try hard to scare me. It wouldn't work, and I would leave disappointed. So, we go in. We pay our $20 to get a ticket. My grandma didn't go through. She sat outside. And the moment I walked in, I'm shoved up against a wall for a pre-show by a zombie-looking Kentucky boy. And by God, that pretty much set the tone of what I was going to be experiencing for the next 5 to 6 minutes in this maze. So I settle in for this great pre-show given by this Kentucky boy who, by God, was he extreme. And then when the maze started, I was the only one in this maze because I was there for the last night. So this was a very slow night. So I was the only one in there. And when the maze started, I was stalked and scared the entire freaking way through. Not even my grandma was safe, who was just sitting on a bench. Not even she was safe. They came out and were messing with her. So yeah, this has a very cool. This maze is just a super cool atmosphere and great story about settlers and the mysterious slaughters of these settlers. Like, why did they die? And this. Just really gritty and Texas Chainsaw kind of atmosphere, which I loved. And this was more. I like to rank this more as like a semi-extreme haunt, not an extreme haunt, but it's definitely more extreme than your Not Scary Farm maze. They'll probably touch you. They touched me for the first time in that maze. I got shoved up against the wall by the Kentucky boy. But it wasn't in an extreme way. It didn't hurt me. And there was this one where I couldn't pass unless I can't wait. I have to say this. I had to scoop this guy, and he wouldn't let me pass unless I did that. So they'll get in your face there. So it's not in I'm gonna hurt you kind of way. It's more of ooh, and I got you kind of way. So yeah, so that, and also the gore in this holy crap. The practical effects in the gore was oh man, it was kind of hard to look at, because they had they made it smell awful. There was just dead bodies everywhere you turn. It was oh my God. So yeah, it's a hard one to stomach if you're not a fan of gore. But the best part of this haunt by far were the scare actors. Moment I got in that maze, even when we parked the car, we were already getting looks at them from when they were exiting the maze from the last group that went through there. But the moment we parked the car, they just began attacking. These guys are absolutely relentless. If you show any kind of fear in the maze, they're going to exploit that to hell. They're going to exploit it. They're going to follow you. They're going to do whatever they can to scare you and make you uncomfortable. Basically, once you step out of that car or enter those gates of the haunt, you belong to them until you have pulled out the driveway or left the gate. That's how intense they are. They're not going to let up. So I just have to commend the Flesh Yard for that. That's why it's ranked so high. It's in the number 9. It deserves to be in the top 10 because, man, was it an intense experience. And, man, did I love it. All right, for the number 8 spot, this number 8 spot is actually related to the Flesh Yard, but I am qualifying it as its own separate haunt for good reason. Number 8 would be the Harvest of Horrors, located up in Chino at Frosty's Cornfield and Pumpkin Patch. So, basically, this year in 2020, the Flesh Yard was it's an enclosed maze, so they couldn't really do it in Anaheim Hills. So because even though they do change it each year, this year they had to change it entirely because they can't do it because coronavirus and it's an enclosed maze. So what did they do? They teamed up with Perdition Home, and they formed the Harvest of Horrors, which was an outdoor maze located in a cornfield, which I thought was awesome. This was a super cool maze to walk through because, once again, since it's the Flesh Yard and also with the addition of Perdition Home, the scare actors were bringing their A game and as terrifying as ever. I think the scariest part for me in the maze was this one part where there was like this guy in like a hazmat, and he just wouldn't let me pass, no matter what. Like, just wouldn't let me pass. And then finally, when I did try to pass him, he like corners me. I'm like up against this plywood wall that's against the corn, and I'm just cornered then, and my friends are going ahead. I'm like, what are you leaving me behind? Because he just wouldn't let me pass until finally he was like, fine, okay. Like, he didn't say that, but like he just wouldn't let me pass, and it was intense. And like, again, this is also a semi-extreme haunt, so they kind of get up in your face a bit, which I wasn't entirely a fan of because of, social distancing stuff. But there was this one funny part where they almost tried to trip me, which was like, okay, that's new. But I think another great thing about this one is that this maze was like pretty long, which I wasn't expecting. I mean, most professional haunts, even when it's just the maze, usually last up to like maybe 5 minutes at most. This thing was about like 10 minutes. And even then, granted, since we were the only 5 in there at the time, we were like running through some of these parts because of how intense the scares were. So like, if we were just walking at a normal pace, this probably would have taken like 15 minutes to go through the whole thing. So it was a long maze, which was awesome. And there was a scare just around each corner. And also there was like these little cabin structures that you'd walk through that were filled with like gory props and special effects, each with their own little story or theme. Like, there was one kind of theme like with the Flesh Yard. There was another one with like an ice cream truck with mutant clowns running it. There was one about like Jack the Ripper, I'm pretty sure. One about the plague. One about, taking place at a camp with like a serial killer, kind of like a Friday the 13th situation. Each one had their own little theme and story, and I thought, hey, that's kind of cool. And also there was like, I already mentioned the doctor one. But yeah, this is easily the goriest haunt I have ever been to. Each room was just filled with like gory props. And again, you kind of have to expect that with the Flesh Yard, especially now that they're teamed with Perdition Home, which were like the kings of gore in Orange County home haunts. So yeah, it's no wonder that this was the goriest maze I've ever done. But yeah, I mean, overall, I thought it was a great idea to just move it to a cornfield because it just adds this like that kind of gritty Texas Chainsaw feel that I loved from the original Flesh Yard. So super great experience. I am so glad I managed to get up there. My only complaint was just I wish that was a bit safer, like in terms of social distancing and masked. But other than that, oh man, this was a fantastic haunt. Absolutely incredible. A big step up from the Flesh Yard. Not that Flesh Yard was bad, but I think it was a great idea to do this in the cornfield and combine with Perdition Home. So yeah, Harvest of Horrors. Beautiful.